Greetings, thank you for taking a chance on us. We hope you will find our tale interesting and motivational. Our elders always say, where the forbidden calls and echoes of the past call only the brave ones can face the depths and rise unbound. Let's find out in our tale what it means. Please share your views at the end of the video. In the heart of the village, there was a river that glistened under the sun, its waters flowing peacefully, as if hiding centuries of whispered secrets. The elders had always warned the young ones to stay clear of the far side, the part where shadows seemed to dance upon the water, and the trees grew thicker and older than anywhere else. It was said that the spirits of the ancients guarded that place, and no one who ventured too far ever came back the same. One hot afternoon, three boys, Andrew, Peter, and James, sneaked away from the village with playful grins on their faces. The heat was unbearable, and the cool waters of the river beckoned them like a siren's song. Though they had heard the warnings, they couldn't resist the thrill of swimming in the forbidden part. They stripped their clothes and dove straight in the cool forbidden waters, laughing and splashing around. The forbidden side felt no different from the rest, at least at first. The water was cool and refreshing, the perfect escape from the blazing sun. But as they swam deeper, something changed. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in front of them, disturbing the calm surface of the water. "Did you see that?" James whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Andrew nodded, already inching his way back to the shore. "We should go right now. Come on guys, let's go." But Peter, the bravest of the three, felt a strange pull toward the ripple. His eyes locked onto the disturbance, as if it was calling his name. Unlike his friends, he wasn't afraid. He was curious, intrigued by the unknown. The ripple grew larger, swirling like a whirlpool, and before they knew it, Peter was swimming toward it, drawn by an invisible force. "Peter, no!" Andrew yelled from the shore, but his voice was swallowed by the sound of the river. Peter swam closer and closer, until, without warning, the ripple opened up into a vortex, pulling him beneath the surface. Peter was gone, the river returning to its peaceful state, as if nothing had happened. While Peter faced the vortex, the two boys on shore were losing their minds. Andrew and James screamed, but their voices seemed to vanish into the air in an instant. They thought of Peter's parents. He was their only son of his father, and their own parents' words and actions that were going to follow. James cried for his friend. They stood rooted to the ground, afraid to move. Going home was not an option without their friend. What was the village going to say about their behavior? For they had been warned by the elders. His lungs screamed for air, but just when he thought he could take no more, the water released him into an underwater cavern, bathed in a strange glowing light. He coughed and gasped for breath, pushing himself up onto a rocky ledge. As he blinked through the water, dripping from his hair, he realized he wasn't alone. In the center of the cavern stood an ancient stone pedestal etched with markings. Peter couldn't understand. Strange, shimmering fish darted through the waters, casting an eerie glow on the cavern walls. The air smelled of moss and old earth, and the sound of rushing water echoed from somewhere far beneath him. He thought he heard his name, and turned around, but saw nothing. He thought nothing of it. Peter was mesmerized by the pedestal. It felt like it was calling him, just as the ripple had, and though his heart raced with fear, his feet seemed to move on their own. He approached the pedestal, and as he stood near it, something happened suddenly. An image appeared, an old woman, her face lined with wisdom and sorrow. She spoke, though her lips did not move. "Finally, you have come just as it was foretold." Peter froze, his thoughts all over the place, trying to make sense of the words. The woman had said, "Elder One, please. Make me understand, I'm lost." He said, "I am the keeper of the river's secret," she replied, her voice soft, but commanding. Long ago, this land was blessed by the ancestors, but it was cursed by greed. The river you swim in is more than just water. It is the keeper of time and fate. Those who enter its forbidden side are shown what they need to see, whether they seek it or not. Peter's heart raced. "Why me, Elder One?" The woman's eyes softened. "Because, Peter, you carry the burden of your ancestors. Their fate is tied to yours, and the choices you make will determine the future of your village. The river has chosen you and your friends to unlock the truth. But be warned, what you uncover will change everything." Before he could ask more, the pedestal glowed brighter, and the cavern trembled. The markings on the stone shifted, revealing a map. An ancient path leading through the forest and deep into the mountains. The woman's voice grew fainter, echoing in the cavern. "Follow the path, Peter, and you will discover the truth of the curse. But beware, for every step you take, the river will test your heart." As the light from the pedestal faded, Peter found himself once again standing in the middle of the river, the water calm and still. Andrew and James stood on the shore, staring at him in disbelief. "Peter, what happened?" James shouted on top of his lungs, with relief in his voice. They stared at Peter with disbelief. His hands had a blue light glowing in them, and he felt different looking at his surroundings. His friends eagerly waited for him to talk, and beat him to death, for nearly sending them to their early graves. Peter's words lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Andrew and James exchanged uneasy glances, but followed their friend as he led them. Away from the river, the map burned in Peter's mind. The strange symbols etched into his memory. He knew they had to head toward the mountains that loomed over their village, shrouded in mist and mystery. As they walked, Peter began to share the vision he had seen in the underwater cavern. The mention of ancestors struck a chord in Andrew, who was fascinated by the tales passed down by the elders. "The curse, my grandmother used to whisper about it," Andrew admitted. "She said the river was alive and angry, that it had seen too much blood spilled on its banks, and unnecessary deaths in the land, and hatred among people." James, ever the skeptic, shook his head. "Maybe the elders made it up to scare us. But what if it's all just stories?" "But it can't be stories. We all saw what happened at the river." Peter stopped and turned to face them, his voice firm. "Then why did the river pull me under? Why show me the map? We can't ignore this. Whatever it is, it's connected to us." As night fell, the boys reached the edge of the forest at the base of the mountains. There, they set up a small camp, lighting a fire to ward off the chills. The flames danced, casting shadows on the trees. The air felt charged, as though the forest itself was watching them. When Peter closed his eyes to rest, his dreams were filled with haunting images. He saw a village, much like theirs, but in another time. The people were gathered by the river, their faces etched with desperation and sorrow. The river's guardian stood at the center of the river. She looked angry at the villagers. "You have tainted my spirit," the woman declared, her voice echoing through time. "The ancestors demand balance. The river will hold your darkest secrets, until the one with the purest heart comes to set you free." Amos awoke with a start, his heart pounding. As he recounted the dream to the others, they began to piece together the fragments of the curse. Long ago, their ancestors had lived in harmony with the river, drawing from its waters for sustenance and life. One fateful day, the river got fed up with the people's charged behavior, the greed The fights, the unnecessary bloodshed that constantly tainted its spirit as it flowed, became tainted, and it got angry. The river's guardian warned them to change their ways. The river would no longer be a source of life, but a keeper of their darkest secrets hidden from the world. Until the chosen one came forth to cleanse the land. The next morning, the boys pressed on, following the map etched in Peter's memory. The path led them deeper into the forest, where the air grew thick with whispers, soft, melodic voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The echoes of our ancestors, Andrew whispered, his eyes wide. They came to a clearing where a giant tree stood, its trunk twisted and gnarled. At its base was an ancient altar similar to the pedestal Peter had seen in the cavern. As they approached, the whispers grew louder, forming words. Only the pure of heart may proceed. Prove your worth to the river. Before they could react, the ground beneath them trembled, and three shadowy figures emerged from the forest. They looked human, but were cloaked in darkness, their eyes and faces glowing blue color faintly. Stay together, Peter shouted as the figures circled them. But the trial was not one of strength, it was of truth. One by one, the figures stepped forward, speaking words that pierced their hearts. They revealed secrets the boys had buried, moments of weakness and shame. Andrew froze as one figure whispered a sin he had kept hidden for years. James dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face as his darkest fears were spoken aloud. But Peter stood firm, though the words stung. He met the figure's eyes and said, "L will not run from the truth. It is the only way forward." The shadows hesitated, then dissolved into the air. The trial was over, and the altar glowed with a faint light. Peter approached the pedestal. As Peter absorbed it up, he felt a surge of energy, a connection to the river and the ancestors skit through him. The curse can be undone, he realized. But we have more trials ahead, guys. The boys knew their journey was far from over. They would face more trials, each revealing deeper secrets about their ancestors and the choices that had shaped their village. The echoes of the past would guide them, but the question remained: could they prove themselves worthy of lifting the curse? The bluish glowing light pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to echo the beating of their hearts, drawing the boys deeper into the mountains. The air grew thinner, colder, and heavier with anticipation. The boys could feel the weight of the curse. The bluish light glowing guided them to a hidden valley, pressing on their shoulders like unseen chains. Lush and vibrant, unlike the barren cliffs they had traversed. At its center stood an ancient obelisk, black as midnight, inscribed with glowing symbols similar to those Peter had seen in his vision. Surrounding the obelisk were massive iron chains, rusted but pulsating with energy, anchoring it to the earth. The chains, Andrew whispered, his voice trembling. They must be the source of the curse. James nodded, his usual skepticism replaced by a solemn determination. But how do we break them? As if in answer, the shard in Peter's hands flared, with light projecting an image of the river guardian. Her voice was both a whisper and a roar, filling the valley. You stand at the crossroads of destiny, young ones. But you have done well, this is the final trial. The chains of bondage were forged by the greed and tainting of the river's spirit by your ancestors. To break them, you must cleanse its spirit and prove your hearts are pure. Listen to your inner self, there your answers lie. But beware, the river does not forgive easily. The three boys followed the instructions given by the river guardian. They stood around the obelisk, holding hands and chanting a sentence that was told to Peter, In a dream, an electrical current coursed through their bodies and an image could blink. They found themselves in front of their village river. They were met by 3 river princesses, who guided them in the cleansing ritual of the river. Into the river, chanting cleansing words, appealing for mercy and forgiveness. As a sign of approval, it was supposed to stand upright and glow, which it did. Peter and the princess were happy. Next was Andrew. His task to cleanse the river's spirit was he was supposed to put coconuts in the river, chanting cleansing words, appealing for mercy, apologizing for the pain inflicted. He promised from his generation going forward, they were going to appreciate the river more. As a sign of approval, the water glowed under the coconut. Both Andrew and the princess were happy. Next was James. He had to take a basket filled with fruits and vegetables into the river, chanting cleansing words. The basket floated all the way to the center, and the water glowed. As a sign of approval, they were both relieved and happy for the approval. Then she appeared, a beauty that had no description, with an energy and aura so powerful and commanding, yet peaceful. She thanked and blessed the boys for their courage and perseverance. Through it all, she warned against repeat of the offense. Then just like that, she was gone with her daughters. Meanwhile, on the other side of the village, the villagers were amazed at the change in the river. Even the forbidden side showed signs of life. The 3 brave boys were welcomed with praises and love, and people rejoiced in the river. The boys shared their adventure with everyone they met, and also shared the warning given by the goddess and promises they made to the river and the river goddess, and peace was restored. Thanks for staying with us up to now. We hope you found our tale motivating and inspiring. If you did, kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Even better, hit that notification bell so you won't miss more upcoming tales. Bravery unlocks hidden potential in life, and the greatest rewards come to those who dare to venture beyond their comfort zone. Even when the path ahead is uncertain, they keep pushing. Never give up on your dreams. Until then, fade out.